Pilipino, ang dugo'y maharlika. Likas sa aking puso, adhikan kay ganda. Sa Pilipinas na aking bayan, lantay na perlas ng silanganan, wari na tipo ng kayamanan ng may kapal. Ako ay Pilipino, ako ay Pilipino, taas noo kahit kanino, ang Pilipino ay ako.
In 1810, after a successful revolt, there was shortage of money in Spain. The Philippine Islands remained undeveloped without financial assistance from the mother country. Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez introduced important changes and systems that led to the economic and social upheavals and improvements in the ways of life of the Filipinos. Wealthy Spanish investors were invited to invest in the Philippine Islands. Vast wild lands were cleared for production. Sugar plantations started to grow. Tobaccos became one of the big sources of revenue. Abaca and copra growth were given as incentives. Cottage industries were introduced. Pineapple plantation in Las Piñas became the source of the beautiful piña weave fabrics for Maria Clara's and Spanish elite society. The galleon trade with Mexico, China, and Japan started to flourish again. It was the primeval of the new era in the Philippine Islands. Manufacturing was given incentives utilizing the enormous natural new materials. Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez and Don Miguel A. Rodriguez had cherished the land of their ancestor, Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa. They remained in the Philippines and settled down for good with regular visits and vacations to their mother country, Spain. They appointed as administrators or caretakers Doña Maria Isabel Rodriguez Madrigal, also descendant of Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa, over a big parcel of lands covered by Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol. She was married to Don Florentino Montañez Acopiado and was blessed with only one son named Don Gregorio Madrigal Acopiado. He was given possession of the big portion of land covered by Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4, which was adjudicated to his father and mother, Don Florentino Montañez Acopiado and Doña Maria Isabel Rodriguez Madrigal. On October 14, 1913, Don Hermogenes and Don Miguel Rodriguez sold, transferred, ceded, and bequeathed all their ownership, possession, and property rights by the duly registered land title, the Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol, the Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos of 1891, including all their caretakers and overseers and all improvements therein, by way of the deed of absolute sale to Don Gregorio Madrigal Acopiado and Doña Maria Camelia Sarmiento Madrigal. The ownership of the unified islands, Philippines, was represented by Titulo Posesorio de Terrenos, issued on January 7, 1864, and has been rectified by King Alfonso XIII by virtue of Royal Decree of 1891 known as Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4. Court order dated January 19, 1979, LRC Civil Case Number 3957-P, further expound the true meaning of Royal Decree 01-4, to quote, in 1891, King Alfonso XIII ordered the grant of the Spanish title of the vast land in the Philippine Islands, known as the Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol, Titulo de Propiedad de Terrenos of 1891, to Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez and Miguel A. Rodriguez by the then Civil Administration Judge Franco Gomez of Spain as an honorary decree award to the fourth degree, relatives of the king in accordance to the protocol of the Royal Crown. The Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol, Titulo de Propiedad de Terrenos, signed for and in behalf of King Alfonso XIII by the Civil Administration Judge Franco Gomez for and in favor of Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez, covering vast tracts of land in Luzon, including Visayas and Mindanao. This honorary decree was also an identification of Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez and Miguel A. Rodriguez as fourth degree in the line of descendants of Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa, a blood relation of King Philip II. And secondly, Royal Decree 01-4 was an honor and tribute to the distinguished persons who rendered eminence and victory for the Spanish kingdom and King Alfonso XIII. To elaborate the court's order stated facts, this is how the Titulo de Propiedad Royal Decree number 01-4 Protocol Año 1826, 1861, 1891, as seen on the face of the title, was interpreted. Royal Decree means an honorary decree, an identification of Don Hermogenes A. Rodriguez and Miguel A. Rodriguez as fourth degree in the line of Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa, a blood relation of King Philip II. 01-4 means the line of descendants starting from no other than Don Esteban Rodriguez de Figueroa being the first or the origin going to the fourth degree heirs, Don Hermogenes and Miguel Rodriguez. Protocol means the first copy of a treaty or other documents prior to its ratification. Royal Decree 01-4 emanated from the previous royal decrees issued, namely Royal Decree of 1826, Royal Decree of 1861, and Royal Decree of 1891, as can be seen at the heading of the title. The power of the king in doing such undertaking is that the Philippines is a crown colony in the sense that she belonged to the Spanish king. The king appointed the Governor-General and other colonial officials and issued royal decrees governing the Philippines. On July 30, 1789, two Spanish corvettes, the Atrevida and the Descubierta, under the command of Captain Alejandro Malaspina, left Cadiz, Spain. These corvettes were dispatched by the Spanish government to make scientific observations and conduct geodetic surveys of the coasts of Spanish America, Marianas, and the Philippines. From the above-mentioned piece of information, it can be figured out that Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, being the title that covers the entire archipelago, has already technical descriptions based on the conducted geodetic survey in the Philippines on July 30, 1789. This was a conclusive indication that Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos Royal Degree 01-4 possessed the criteria of a surveyed land, the principal requirement set forth by the Land Registration Act 496 promulgated by the Second Philippine Commission of 1902 under the American occupation. During the 16th century, the Philippines passed to the Spanish crown by discovery and conquest. Consequently, our lands, whether agricultural, mineral, or forest, became, at least technically speaking, the exclusive patrimony and dominion of the Spanish crown. Hence, private ownership in land can only be founded on royal concessions. Royal concessions may be accomplished in varied forms. To reiterate, by right of conquest, the Spanish crown claimed all the lands and freed the people from their datus, but made them vassal of the king. The primary purpose of the king in doing so, the above-cited national activity, was his desire to secure all the islands and islets from foreign invasion and taking them from the rest of the archipelago. The complicatedness of protecting the scattered islands in the king's name was to have it titled in his name, known as the Isles of Philip. This is to restrain other powerful colonizers from claiming it. If the king did not act upon this, and had the whole archipelago titled by virtue of royal decrees and royal orders, probably what remained were few islands, hence there's no such thing as Philippine archipelago. We were colonized by Spain for 333 years. During that period, the King of Spain granted several parcels of land signified by different Spanish titles, royal concessions in varied forms such as Título Real, Royal Grant, Título de Composición con el Estado, Adjustment Title, Título de Concesión Especial, Special Grant, Título de Compra, Title by Purchase during the Spanish colonial period, Título de Composición, which was a kind of legal compromise, Información possessoria, actual public and adverse possession of a piece of land. There were also different forms of accessions under the Civil Code and special laws. An example is the Título de Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Degree 01-4 Protocol, an honorary decree, the paramount title of them all. All legitimate owners of land in the whole archipelago holding Spanish title, those times, were recorded under Cuaderno Supletorio del Registro de Anotaciones de Títulos de Propiedad de Terrenos expedidos por la Dirección General de Administración Civil of 1891. The primary entry book employed for land registration by the Spanish government, an indication that Título Propiedad de Terrenos Royal Degree 01-4 covers the entire archipelago. It is better to interpret that OCT 01-4, although covers Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, all within Philippine territory, does not necessarily mean the Rodriguezes or the Acopiados owns the entire land area of the archipelago. The perfect analogy is that let us assume that the Philippine archipelago as a subdivision. The ownership and dominion of the subdivision's owner to all the lots that had been sold absolutely relinquishes his right. The buyer, new owner of the subdivided lots, will now therefore acquire a new title in their name originated from the mother title, which is the subdivision owner's title. Thus, it would be very foolish to conclude that all the islands belong to Hermogenes and Miguel Rodriguez, as what the alleged heirs of Rodriguez's as well as Talianos were claiming, which is a sweeping and unfair generalization being refuted by the Maharlikans group managing the Acopiado estate. During the American occupation, the torrent system of land registration was introduced in the Philippines by Act 496, which took effect on February 1st, 1903, from which the Spanish title, Título Propiedad de Terrenos of 1891, Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol, was rectified to original Certificate of Title 01-4. Upon approval and issuance of its Decree of Registration 297 on October 3, 1904 and October 7, 1910. It affirmed that OCT 01-4 was valid from probative nature of land titles of ownership. Hence, OCT 01-4 cannot be nullified inasmuch as the judgment of the Land Registration Court had met the prerequisites of jurisprudence over the land case for registration and had been rendered by the judge who handled the land registration proceedings in accordance with due process as the requirements set forth by the law. Spain's contribution to Filipino nationalism, Filipinos are eternally indebted to Spain for giving them their identity as a nation. Because of more than 3 centuries of Spanish colonization, the country became known to the world as the Philippines, Filipinas, and the people, Filipinos. Prior to Spain's coming to the Orient, the country was a mere geographical expression, a nameless archipelago of many islands, and the people, an unknown people of many diverse tribes. Throughout the 300-year colonial period, Spain unwittingly caused the diverse native tribes to unite into one people, the Filipino nation. The scattered islands and diverse tribes were united by a legal title, which was clarified in Article 1, Section 1 of the 1973 Constitution of the Philippines, which defined the national territory as follows. The national territory comprises the Philippine archipelago, with all the islands and waters embraced therein, and all the other territories belonging to the Philippines by historic right or legal title, including the territorial sea, the airspace, the subsoil, the seabed, the insular shelves, and the other submarine areas over which the Philippines has sovereignty and jurisdiction. The phrase all other territories implicitly refers to territories like Sabah and Freedom Land on the other hand, and the Marianas and Guam on the other, which historically used to be under the jurisdiction of the Bishopric of Cebu. The aforementioned article was substantiated by historical facts, as cited in page 104 of the book, The Philippines, a Unique Nation, by Sonia M. Saide, as quoted. Because of the great distance of the Philippines from Spain, the Governor-General exercised the powers of a monarch. He could declare war or peace with China, Japan, Siam, and other countries in the Orient. He appointed ambassadors to and received ambassadors from these countries. He administered not only the Philippines, but also the Marianas, the Carolines, and the Palaos archipelagos in the Pacific. These islands were considered a part of the Philippines during Spanish times. This was the main reason why former President Ferdinand E. Marcos borrowed such title, the Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4, on February 23, 1976, to strengthen our claim over Sabah and Kalayaan Islands. Pushing more the authority of our claim over this formidable task, President Marcos has utilized Presidential Decree 1143 of May 28, 1977, which was already reserved for tobacco, to a more sounding and justifiable application toward a strong measure of our claim, and that is by instituting the technical description of the Philippine archipelago, making the Philippine Islands into two parcels, Parcel 1 and Parcel 2. In Section 8 of Presidential Decree 1143 stated that the title to represent Parcel 1 and Parcel 2 of the Philippine archipelago is Titulo de Propiedad de Terrenos of 1891, Royal Decree 01-4 Protocol. The number 1143 was so very significant for its logical interpretation of our historic rights. The second and third digit, 1 and 4, stands for 1-4, as seen in the face of Titulo de Propiedad de Terrenos. The number 3 in the fourth digit symbolizes the three royal decrees dated 1826, 1861, and 1891. These were the protocols anchored for the issuance of Titulo de Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4. The number 1 in the first digit refers to the foremost, the paramount among presidential decree being issued. The lengthy efforts exerted by our government's claim over Sabah and Kalayaan Islands as part of the national territory might totally collapse unless the Philippines' demand for the recovery on the said disputed islands is just and valid. Establishment of the facts in accordance with ancestral precedents is the proper and only means to determine the right, control, and possession of its then territorial jurisdiction. Hence, we cannot escape the consequences to seek for the utilization of the ancestral title, the Titulo Propiedad de Terrenos, Royal Decree 01-4, being supported by its historic rights as explored herein, might regain and restore our sovereignty over the islands. Furthermore, this is the only title acknowledged by the government, as cited in page 71 of the decision with compromise agreement between the Republic of the Philippines, represented by the Solicitor General and Don Anacleto Madrigal Acopiado under LRC Civil Case Number 3957-P, to quote, Paragraph I of the government position paper were the testimonies of former DOJ Secretary Salvador Marino before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee and were used in 1968. The government had issued only one land title, OCT-01-4, and the decree issued 1910 for the whole archipelago, and that its expediencies, TCT number 408, TCT number 498, TCT number 409, TCT number 407, and thereafter, if any other land title exists other than those land titles alleged to be fraudulent titles in character and are null and void ab initio. Likewise, from the aforecited case, the reconstitution of OCT-01-4 was granted by the court through the petition filed by the Republic of the Philippines, represented by the Office of the Solicitor General. Accordingly, the validity of OCT-01-4 at present was supported by Remedios C. Balbin. She was a University of the Philippines law graduate, cum laude, class 59, a Fulbright scholar, and obtained her master's degree in law in Southern Methodist University, Dallas, Texas, in 1966. In the preface of her 2008 revised edition of the said book, she made clear how important OCT-01-4 in today's numerous land conflicts as stated. In this 2008 edition, we add substantial materials on a new facet of the new law on squatting. We have included the many land claims or ownership to land which have caused numerous conflicts. Many of these claims have been struck down by the Supreme Court, and what remains is a well-documented claim under OCT-01-4. Having been sustained by the Supreme Court, the decision was issued in 1974 by the CFI 7th Judicial District Branch 28, Pasay City, under Judge Enrique A. Agana, may yet be the stabilizing force in the midst of disturbing land conflicts, falsifications, and misrepresentations. The disastrous misinterpretation stating that OCT-01-4 was a fake title by Vice President Noli de Castro was a direct challenge to the Article 1, Section 1 of the 1973 Constitution of the Philippines, as well as swaying the Philippine history into distortion. In truth, since most Filipinos are not aware of these historical events, would make us an easy prey to land grabbers by utilizing the same strategy that gave rise to the fraud, the massive issuance of fake land titles named to
aking puso at hikain kay ganda sa Pilipinas na aking bayan, lantay na perlas ng silanganan, waring natipon